Hello everyone, got 10 funny golf jokes for you today. So a man and his wife go golfing together. On one particular hole, the man slices the ball badly and it's off the fairway. When he finally finds his ball, it's on the other side of a large barn. The man is visibly upset and says, "This sucks. Now I have to take 2 strokes to hit around this stupid barn just to get back on the fairway." His wife offers him some hope. "Look, all you have to do is open the barn doors on either side of the barn. If you hit the ball straight through the barn, you can be on the green in 1 stroke." He likes the sound of that. So they open the barn doors and he takes his shot. But he slices it badly again, and the ball bounces off the side of the barn and the ball hits his wife in the head, knocking her out cold. He calls 911 and an ambulance arrives to take his wife to the hospital. But it's too late. The damage is done. Tragically, his wife does not survive and she's dead. A couple of years later, he's playing at the same course with some friends. On the same hole, he again slices badly and the ball ends up in the exact same spot on the other side of the barn. Again, he's pissed off because his life is so terrible. His friend this time tries to offer the same advice. Check it out. If you open both barn doors, you can hit the ball straight to the green from here. Absolutely not. He says, "No way I'm doing that again. Last time I tried that, I shot a 7 on this hole." So 2 guys were playing golf when a funeral procession passed by the golf course. One stopped and took off his hat and held it over his heart as the procession passed by. His friend said, "What a compassionate gesture." The guy replied, "Well, it's the least I could do. After all, we had been married for 11 years. So one bright and sunny morning, a man arrived at the first tee of his local golf course, ready to begin his round. As he was preparing to tee off, he noticed another man approaching from the opposite side of the course. The 2 men struck up a conversation and decided to play the first 9 holes together. As they made their way down the fairway, the first man asked the second, "So, what do you do for a living?" "I'm a salesman," replied the second man. "What about you?" "Well," said the first man, "I'm a hitman for the mob. I'm the highest paid and most skilled person in the business." The hitman then reached into his golf bag and pulled out a sleek, high-powered rifle with all sorts of scopes and sights attached. Turning to the first man, he asked, "Hey, do you live around here?" "Yeah, I live in a subdivision just west of here," the first man replied, his nerves starting to get the best of him. The hitman placed the rifle against his shoulder, aimed it towards the west, and peered through the scope. "What color is the roof on your house?" he asked. "It's gray," the first man replied. "And what color is the siding?" "It's yellow." "Do you have a silver Toyota in your driveway?" "Yeah, that's my wife's car." "And is there a red pickup truck parked next to it?" "Yes, that's my buddy Jeff's truck." "Why are you asking all these questions?" The hitman handed the rifle to the first man and said, "Take a look for yourself." The first man looked through the sights and saw his wife and Jeff going at it like a couple of teenagers. "What the hell is going on here?" he exclaimed. "I want you to shoot both of them right now." The hitman hesitated before saying, "Sure thing, but it's going to cost you. I charge $5,000 per shot, and I only use the best bullets. I don't care about the cost." The first man shouted, "Just shoot her in the lying mouth and him in the groin." The hitman nodded and took aim, carefully aiming the rifle at his targets. "You know what, buddy," he said after a moment. "It looks like you're having a lucky day. I think I can save you $5,000. So as I was helping my wife learn the finer points of golf on a beautiful sunny day, I decided to take a quick break and pop into the clubhouse for a refreshing drink. Much to my surprise, my wife returned much earlier than expected, looking agitated and rubbing her arm. "What happened?" I asked. "I was stung by a bee," she replied. "Where did it happen?" I inquired. "Between the first and second hole," she said. I chuckled and said, "Well, it sounds to me like your stance is too wide. You need to narrow it up a bit." So one fine day in Ireland, a guy is out golfing and gets up to the 16th hole. He tees up and cranks one. Unfortunately, it goes into the woods on the side of the fairway. He goes looking for his ball and comes across this little guy with this huge knot on his head and the golf ball lying right beside him. "Goodness," says the golfer, and proceeds to revive the poor little guy. Upon awaking, the little guy says, "Well, you caught me fair and square. I am a leprechaun. I will grant you 3 wishes." The man says, "I can't take anything from you. I'm just glad I didn't hurt you too badly," and walks away. Watching the golfer depart, the leprechaun thinks, "Well, he was a nice enough guy, and he did catch me, so I have to do something for him. I'll give him the 3 things that I would want. I'll give him unlimited money, a great golf game, and a great sex life." Well, a year goes past and the same golfer is out golfing on the same course at the 16th hole. He gets up and hits one into the same woods and goes off looking for his ball. When he finds the ball, he sees the same little guy and asks how he is doing. The leprechaun says, "I'm fine, and might I ask how your golf game is?" The golfer says, "It's great. I hit under par every time." The leprechaun says, "I did that for you. And might I ask how your money is holding out?" The golfer says, "Well, now that you mention it, every time I put my hand in my pocket, I pull out a 10-pound note." The leprechaun smiles and says, "I did that for you. And might I ask how your sex life is?" The golfer looks at him a little shyly and says, "Well, maybe once or twice a week." The leprechaun is floored and stammers, "Once or twice a week." The golfer, a little embarrassed, looks at him and says, "Well, that's not too bad for a Catholic priest in a small parish." So on a beautiful morning at the golf course, a priest, a doctor, and an engineer were growing increasingly impatient as they waited for a particularly slow group of golfers to finish their round. "What's taking those guys so long?" the engineer complained. "We've been waiting here for at least 15 minutes. The doctor added, "I've never seen such terrible golf in my life. They must be complete amateurs." Just then, the greenkeeper approached the group. The priest asked him, "Excuse me, George, but do you know what's causing the delay with that group ahead of us? They seem to be moving at a snail's pace." George replied, "Yes, that group is made up of a group of blind firemen. They lost their sight while saving our clubhouse from a fire last year, so we always let them play for free whenever they want." The group was speechless as they listened to George's story. The priest finally spoke up, "That's so tragic. I'll make sure to include them in my prayers tonight." The doctor added, "I'll see if there's anything my colleague in ophthalmology can do to help them regain their vision." The engineer said, "Why don't they just play at night?" So as a woman was making her way around the golf course, she accidentally hit a man standing nearby with her golf ball. The man let out a yelp of pain and fell to the ground, holding his hands between his legs and rolling around in agony. The woman, who happened to be a doctor, rushed over to the man and offered to help ease his pain. Despite his initial reluctance, he eventually agreed to let her try to help him. The woman gently removed his hands and unzipped his pants, then began to massage him tenderly. After a few minutes, she asked, "How does it feel?" The man replied, It feels great, but I'm pretty sure my thumb is still broken. So a golfing instructor has no luck teaching a young, married woman. Whatever he tries, she is still just terrible, either missing the ball completely or taking chunks out of the grass. This is beginning to affect his ability to get new clients, and he is constantly getting ribbed by colleagues. One lesson: after angrily stamping a clump of grass back into place, he has an idea. He says to the woman, "I hope you don't mind, but I'd like to take an unorthodox approach, but one that might finally see some improvement in your technique." "Sure," she replies, wanting to see some success herself. "Right," he says. "Your grip is all wrong. It's too tight. It's throwing your swing off. So, instead, I want you to imagine the club is your husband's willy. Swish, crack, she hits the ball cleanly, driving it perfectly down the fairway." "Right," he says, "finally we are getting somewhere. Now, take the club out of your mouth." So a group of men live and die for their Saturday morning golf game. One of them transfers to another city and they're lost without him. A new woman joins their club. When she hears the guys talking about their golf round, she says, "I played on my college's golf team. I was pretty good. Mind if I join you next week?" No one wants to say yes, but they are on the spot. Finally, one man says, "Okay, but we start at 6:30 a.m. He figures the early tea time will discourage her. The woman says this may be a problem and asks if she can be up to 15 minutes late. They roll their eyes, but say, "Okay." She's there at 6:30 a.m. sharp and beats all of them with an eye-opening 2 under par round. She's fun and pleasant, and the guys are impressed. They congratulate her and invite her back the next week. She smiles and says, "I'll be there at 6:30 or 6:45. The next week she again shows up at 6:30 sharp. Only this time, she plays left-handed. The 3 guys are incredulous as she still beats them with an even par round, despite playing with her offhand. They're totally amazed. They can't figure her out. She's very pleasant and a gracious winner. They invite her back again, but each man harbors a burning desire to beat her. The 3rd week, she's 15 minutes late, which irritates the guys. This week she plays right-handed and narrowly beats all 3 of them. The men grumble that her late arrival is petty gamesmanship on her part. However, she's so charming and complimentary of their strong play, they can't hold a grudge. This woman is a riddle no one can figure out. They have a couple of beers in the clubhouse, and finally, one of the men asks her, "How do you decide if you're going to golf right-handed or left-handed?" The lady blushes and grins. "When my dad taught me to play golf, I learned I was ambidextrous," she replies. "I like to switch back and forth. When I got married after college, I discovered my husband always sleeps in the nude. From then on, I developed a silly habit. Right before I leave in the morning for golf practice, I pull the covers off him. If his willy points to the right, I golf right-handed. If it points to the left, I golf left-handed." The guys think this is hysterical. Astonished at this bizarre information, one of the guys says, "What if it's pointing straight up?" She says, "Then I'm 15 minutes late." So after a rough round of golf, a club member decided to skip the clubhouse and head straight home. As he was walking to his car, a police officer stopped him and asked, "Did you tee off on the 16th hole about 20 minutes ago?" "Yes," the golfer replied. "Did you happen to hook your ball so that it flew over the trees and off the course?" The officer asked. "Yes, I did." "How did you know?" the golfer inquired. "Well," the officer said gravely, "your ball flew onto the highway and crashed through a driver's windshield." The car went out of control, crashing into 5 other cars and a fire truck. The fire truck couldn't make it to the fire, and the building burned down. So, what are you going to do about it? The golfer thought for a moment before responding. I think I'll try to close my stance a little bit, tighten my grip, and lower my right thumb next time.